From last year, welcome everyone to the 2018 Faculty Showcase. We're really excited you're here. Feel free to finish getting your coffee and pastries. Just do it quietly. From the survey from last year's event, one of the things you guys talked about is you want to hear less from ODE and more from the speakers. So I will take that constructive criticism, swallow it, and they were giving me 5 minutes instead of 15. So I'm just going to talk 3 times as fast and get the same amount of information in. Really excited everyone's here. This is a great event. It actually spun off from our Spring Innovate event. About 4 years ago, we started doing this because, again, in those surveys, you guys wanted more innovation, more innovate. And so we're really happy to be doing this event every year. You see the turnout that we have, representation from all over the university, and just super excited to see so many familiar faces. We have social work here, and College of Medicine, and chemistry, and nursing, I believe, was in the building, and just all these different people, whether it's faculty and staff and students. I think it's just amazing. So I want to take just a second to celebrate the fact that we have such amazing people here at Ohio State that are just interested in not just showing up to talk over their PowerPoints to students, but really try to make a difference and make an impact and just do awesome stuff for their students. So I just want to celebrate that. I think it's amazing. You guys are awesome for taking time out of your Wednesday to be here and be with us. So a lot of familiar faces, here. How many people have obviously been to the Faculty Showcase before? Hands? A good number. How many first-timers do we have for the Faculty Showcase? All right, that is awesome. So all you old-timers, be able to take in the new faces here. Again, we'll have time at the end to network. This is I don't want to consider this Innovate like a movement. I really see it as a community, and that's what it's really become over the years, is just a community of instructors from all disciplines coming together to celebrate, to connect, and it's just amazing to me, and I hope we can keep that going. And it didn't happen overnight that way. It's taken a long time for this kind of community to build and evolve, and it's really exciting. So again, I talked about this is a spinoff from our spring event. Anybody not been to our spring big Innovate conference? Okay, so check it out. Registration will be opening up later this year. But we usually take time during this event to kind of announce the theme for our next Innovate conference, which is a big deal. And so we're really excited this year. It's a special year for us. We have a really short video we want to play that will announce the theme and details. So we'll go ahead and hit the lights real quick. This is really short, so enjoy. So this is our 10th year coming up. We're super excited. We're super excited for this. Like I said, this has been something that's started in the library, a really small group of people that's grown to now 1,000 people at the Union, and we've outgrown the Union, but we just have nowhere else to go, so we're going to struggle through that with you guys, and we just are super excited for this year's theme, which is Innovate X, hence the X 10 years. And our threads this year, usually we have kind of one thread. I have the excellence thread on. You can see our old t-shirts around the room. This year we have excite, explore, and experience. If one was good, 3 is better. And so we're really excited about that. And so we're kicking it off today with speakers to really focus on that. And we're teamed up with Digital Flagship this year because they wanted to do kind of an event similar to this, and Tara reached out and said, hey, what if we team up and just do a collaboration event for Faculty Showcase and have Digital Flagship kind of put in. And so we're really excited that the Digital Flagship team, who's been super busy over the last year, not even the last year, the last 6 months, getting these iPads out to students and working with faculties and getting things running. And so we're really excited to have a great group of speakers today to kind of talk about how do we get students excited about their learning? How do we explore outside of the classroom and outside of the university to do more in the community? And how do we hear about the experiences that students are having? And so a big emphasis that we had this year, again, is that student experience and hearing their voice. So we want to make sure we're bringing them to the table, that we're listening to them, and we understand the things that they're going through and how we can better serve them. Because ultimately, it's so easy for us to forget that it's really all about them. So we're excited to have that experience thread for the students brought in this year. So my 5 minutes is up, so I'm going to go ahead and get started and introduce our first speaker today. I'm so excited to introduce Kathy Ryan. She doesn't sleep. She is up constantly. She is definitely an explorer. She is constantly networking, connecting, meeting people. Anytime she listens to someone talk, she's up talking to them afterwards to figure out, hey, how can we collaborate on something? So she knows no boundaries, no walls, no barriers. She is super excited to be here. So can we give a really warm welcome to Kathy Ryan?
Good morning. I'll wait for some people to sit down, but I'm really, really excited to hear that Innovate started in the library, because I started with digital humanities in the library also about the same time that Innovate formed. I am representing arts and sciences and digital humanities, and I'm also a member of the digital flagship cohort. So why am I holding the mic? I'm mic'd, actually. So I'm mic'd twice.
I wasn't going to say anything. I was just letting you run.
I'm like, woo, holy mic'd. I wanted to be able to speak with my hands. So welcome, and I've got a presentation, and hopefully it works. But I teach writing, and in my department, it excites me that I am not the only person making connections all over the campus. And I actually brought a visual aid. It's my only visual aid, but it's a big wad of Innovate name tags. And in my name tags, one of my kids was looking at it. He says, "Mom, you didn't turn in your raffle ticket." And I just wanted you to know I don't do it for the raffle. The food is excellent, though, if you've not been to the spring. But this year, something remarkable happened to me. Everybody sees what happened? I went to Michigan. And I actually took what I learned in a lightning session and implemented it immediately into my classroom. I'm the only one on campus doing this. And so first advice I can give is wear comfortable clothes. Second is become an Innovate junkie. So this is my first showcase, and I was early on influenced by Brian Leaf. He took part in a storytelling workshop that was digital, that was hosted by Cindy Self, and then from Brian, most recently, Evan Straub, who is an OSU alum working in the Office of Academic Innovation at Michigan, wholly transformed my teaching. And so I also, as a member of the University Center for Advancement of Teaching, recently was at a breakfast where my facilitator, Jerry Masti, had this to say. And he said, if you do what you said you were going to do, you didn't learn anything. And I absolutely love that. And so a lot of what I show today represents me going off-road and exploring. And I challenge everyone here to do the same. So last spring, when I went to Innovate, I had a 30 minutes that was absolutely revolutionary for my teaching. And in that session, I met Andrew Frew, who is the lab supervisor in the art, departments of art and design here. And we are now collaborating two ways, in a National Endowment for the Humanities grant, and a proposal, a pre-planning grant, and also for a project where I hope to develop an adaptive toy lending library at the Ohio State School for the Blind. And to do that project, I think I'm partnering with something like was said, with 6 or 7 people across campus in many departments in the deep sciences, and also with Hackathon and Makeathon, and I'm also a member of the STEAM Factory, so there's my tendrils going there. Does everyone know what the STEAM Factory is? The grassroots organization here that connects us to the community. But anyway, in the middle, I picked up something called Play Posit from Jeffrey, where the ability to embed learning components within video on YouTube. It's really remarkable. So look it up, PlayPosit, one word. And Jeff and I are actually friends through Innovate. Every year we just kind of migrate to the same table at lunch, and he's from Purdue. And then finally, Evan and I met this year. And so this is what GradeCraft, it's an interactive gradebook. It's what it looks like. You have the ability to give students real-time analytics. You also can actually turn it into a game. It has all levels. This is just a screen capture from within the learning repository for me. Here's a quote. These are the ways that I've kind of motivated my students. There was this class period where every student in the room wanted to get that Research Monster Award, and they were working on annotated bibliography. And if you've ever done that, you know that's not something that gets students typically really excited. So really, really big fan. Second rule, I've just got a couple of rules, is celebrate the people who are the giants in your world. And so I am as inspired by young people as by people who are faculty. In fact, in the middle of this, I have to go a little faster this morning because yesterday one of my students in a class that finished in the 7th week was able to produce a film that he wanted me to show today, and I'll do that. So basically, I heard this quote this week or last, and I thought that it was really significant. People who are fix-it or tinkers are a dwindling population. And I think those of us who work at the university should also think of what we do as not only adaptation or potentially being entrepreneurial, but also to tinker with what we do in terms of learning. And so people I turn to when I have needs are Ruth Ann Hendrickson in the Proposal Development Office. She's a PhD from the English department at Ohio State, had a very long career at Battelle before coming back. And Valerie Lee, who I've known since graduate school. She was on my committee. She's responsible for Hale Hall's Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and also has been instrumental in work for the English department on campus. People also that inspire me are Frederick Luis Aldama. He's got a celebrated program through the White House, his Latino and Latin American Space for Enrichment Research Laser Mentoring, as well as SoulCon, which takes place during the Cartoon Crossroads Columbus, and then Jim Phelan. I've been a fan of his Project Narrative for many years, and he's just recently launched, showing the integration of humanities with the deep sciences, launched a medical humanities program. And so my third role is connect what happens in the classroom to the community. I think it's really important, and here's where I play the film, or I think it starts automatically. thought it was a good idea to have these scroll really slow, but I'm thinking now maybe we shouldn't have done it that way. So I'll just talk over this. My students in this respect were my 1137, the Arts and Sciences first year seminar. It's a 7-week course. I run it 2 days a week. We finished in the 7th week of the term. When my students heard that I was presenting here today for the faculty and the community, they wanted to do something. So they independently were in my department office scouting locations. They actually opened my umbrella. It was ridiculous. They were really into it, and then this is the consequence. And so these are the projects. Scott talked about how I'm collaborating with a lot of people, and that's true, and I've been busy. So I already talked about the NEH grant proposal, the UCAT learning community. I have a new speaker series called Iconoclasts and Visionaries. I'd wanted to be able to inspire students and to show them sort of what was possible. Through Digital Flagship, I'm a recipient with Kevin McClatchy in the Department of Theater of a small grant, and we'll be doing a collaborative project in the autumn of 19. And then we just formed I'm in the area of visual narrative and storytelling, as well as teaching writing. And so I have something we've invented for the brand new comics, graphic novel and comics club called Doodle Fest, which will actually capture some doodles during finals time for students for some de-stress. And then finally, Hip Hop Fashion Week is entirely Tom Sturgeon's fault. He's a co-founder and director of the Cartoon Crossroads Columbus, which is a collaboration across all of the Columbus community. And he wanted something in a dead space on Friday night. So September 27th, we're having a hip hop fashion walk, and we're partnering with the Fashion Council Columbus and with Fashion Week Columbus, as well as some community partners. And so I've just got some photographs to finish with. Here, iPads in the classroom, assessment, connected to learning, leadership and engagement, and the team. So thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Amazing. As I said, if you are ever looking for a way to collaborate outside of your department, outside your program, Kathy is a great person to lean on and find out how to take those first steps. She's constantly exploring, networking, learning, and so super appreciative. Thank you, Kathy, for putting that together. I'm really excited to introduce our next presenter, who's really going to focus on that Excite thread that we've been talking about. And Max Gulick, he's actually an academic advisor from our Newark campus, so we're really excited to be able to reach out to our other campuses around the state, welcome them in. They're doing amazing stuff. Make sure we don't forget about the awesome stuff they're doing out there and the collaborations that can happen. So I'm going to introduce Max. I don't want to take up any of his time, so I'm going to get out of the way and let him come up wherever he's hiding. Here he is. So please welcome Max. Made it all the way down from Newark. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Again, my name is Max Gulick. I'm an academic advisor at Ohio State Newark. I was also an adjunct instructor at Central Ohio Technical College for a few years, so I've been on the professor side of things and the advising side of things. Okay? So before we start, quick audience poll by a show of hands. How many folks would be excited if I told you I could teach you to climb to the tippy top of Mount Everest? A few hands, kind of about half. Okay. How about this one, though? How about I told you I could teach you a trick to find the perfect parking spot in any parking garage on the whole campus? A lot more folks, right? Someone tell me why you're more excited about a parking garage than Mount Everest. Sorry? Yes, because you do it every day, right? It's something that affects your daily life, right? So we're more excited about things that affect our daily lives and things that might potentially happen perhaps sometime in the future, right? Okay, so hold that thought. We're more excited about things in our daily lives, okay? So out at the Newark campus this summer at freshman orientation, we welcomed 1,600 students, which is a big number for our small campus, right? The part of the advisor's job during orientation was to get students excited about using the iPads in the classroom. So to do that, we showed them lots of examples about how to use it. One of them was to show the Notes app and the scanning feature, okay? Part of what they had to do during orientation was keep a copy of their registration worksheet. We took the hard copy back for our files. We taught them how to scan it in the Notes feature, okay? That way they had access to it for their survey course during fall semester, okay? But that's not all we did, because they weren't really super excited about that, but we said, here's the deal with that. Parents who are in the back of the room, right? Said, parents, For instance, think of all the things that you need to scan as a mature, grown adult parent, right? You need to scan, for instance, your tax receipts. Instead of keeping them in a shoebox or a file cabinet, you can scan them. Then we said, students, you have the power to now teach your parents a new skill, because this Notes app, they have it on their iPad too, right? So instead of being just a student as a recipient of all this content during the orientation day, which can make a very long day, right? Now they had the power to teach someone else that skill. Before their even first day of college, they became a teacher. They sat up a bit straighter, their smiles got a bit bigger, they had the power of that technology, right? The next thing we showed them was a split screen. We showed them how you can take notes on an academic article, you can annotate on the article, but also take notes about how you're gonna use it in your final paper, for instance. For us in academia, that's super powerful and exciting. But these freshman students, they didn't care, because that wasn't part of their daily life yet. So we showed them something like this. We told them, you can watch 2 movies at one time. They like that idea, right? So the summer orientation season ended, fall semester began, and I wanted to see how my students were doing with their iPads, right? So I sent out an email, I asked one question. I said, what is something you wish that you could do with your iPad? I got lots of different kind of answers, but the most poignant one was 5 words. The first word was in all caps. It said, that email. It said everything. I want to be able to do everything with my iPad. The next 4 words were, this thing is useless. And that broke my heart, because we spent a lot of time and effort to teach them how to use these things. So I brought the student in, and I started talking to her. I said, show me what you can do on your iPad. Whether that's turn it on, or play Candy Crush, or surf Facebook, show me what you can do. I said, well, I can do this in my chemistry class, and this in my math class, and split screen in my survey class. And the more I talked to her, I realized that every skill and feature that she could do, she had in her brain tied to a specific class, a specific task, okay? And I was talking to my survey students, and I realized that pattern is pretty much population-wide, right? They know how to do this thing to accomplish this task. But I showed her, I said, what about if I showed you, you could do split screen to do all of these different things, right? You can be doing your math homework and have your online math tutor right up on the screen next to your math homework so they can help you talk through it. You can have your chemistry periodic table right next to your chemistry homework, or your MLA style guide right next to the final paper that you're writing for your English class, right? She was like, oh, okay, kind of cool. But then I showed her things like this, how you can be online shopping and have your budget right next to it, right? That was a lot more fun, okay? So again, this concept of showing them that things, these skills that you can do outside the classroom can apply to academia. A lot of students that we're finding this fall semester with the new iPads are having trouble taking the skills that they learn in the classroom with technology and applying them to other classes and outside the classroom. But if we show them these skills, how they exist outside the classroom, they're finding easy ways to apply them to the classroom and to all of their other classes as well. So a few direct things that we can do right now to get students excited about trying to use the technology in the classroom, okay? First thing, put the students in the driver's seat. Okay? Think back to the orientation story where they used that Notes app and they became the teachers to teach their parents how to do something. Okay? How many of you use these type of apps in the classroom already? About half of you. All right? I'm going to challenge you to take that to step 2. Don't just use the apps in class, but put the apps in the students' hands. Right? For example, in my English class last spring, I did a Kahoot in class, one of these apps up here, right, about verb tenses, the topic for that class time. Then I said, students, your homework for next class is to read the chapter for next class, and then create a 5-question Kahoot, because in the next class, you'll present to your classmates on this. That made their eyes get real big, right? That forced them to do 4 things. First thing is to actually read the chapter ahead of time. What a novel concept, right, for some students, right? But also to engage with that content at a more meaningful level. Not just read it, skim it, focus on the bold words, but actually work with the content to create those questions and possible answers for their quiz, right? That also encouraged them to practice their public speaking skills, so they'll be up in front of the class. And if your class is too big to do that, that's why the iPads and the laptops have smaller screens for small groups. The tech also works in the small group setting, right? It also focuses them to make sure they get that deeper level with the content, with their classmates, to get connected with each other in that academic setting, okay? they also take those skills and go outside the classroom. I had a student tell me that she taught her daughter how to do that, and her daughter did a Kahoot for her 5th grade classroom, and now the whole class is doing the Kahoots there as well. So they take these skills and apply them outside the classroom, right? Besides owning the technology, the next thing that they can do is take the ideas, right, and go miles and miles from where you thought that they would go with it, okay? For instance, one of these examples on the right is an app called Explain Everything, okay? If I told my students to create a character chart, kind of like a family tree of the characters in our Jane Austen book, right? They might make something that looks just like a family tree with words and lines, right? And I said, and then you want to make that in Explain Everything. But if I said, here's Explain Everything, it's this awesome app. You know, it pulls in live websites, it pulls in GIFs and cartoons and sound bites. And then I said, use this awesome tool to make me a character chart. You're going to get a much more awesome character chart than just a plain old family tree. So it's that concept of instead of saying, here's a task and a tool, here's this amazing tool, and here's a task that we're going to do with it, right? Another example is on the left, picture that adorable puppy up there, right? If I said that your film class, your job is to make an historically accurate poster for the film that we're studying. Use the Adobe Suite to do that, right? They might make you a pretty decent poster, but if I said, here's the Adobe Suite, it does Photoshop, just like up here. It does, you can create blog posts and websites and all these different tools. They'll create a much better poster than just, here's a task and a tool. Here's this amazing tool, and we're gonna do this task with it, right? Same thing for the Notes app. If I said, make sure you take notes in class today, you go, all right. So I'm taking notes in Notability, for instance. But if I said, here's Notability with all of these features that it can do, right? Your notes will have websites pulled in and pictures from the internet that you're taking notes on that relate back to your content. It's going to be a much more engaging note-taking experience and help out in the memory recall later when the student is going through their notes, right? So if I were to leave you with 2 pieces of things to remember today, they would be, 1, put the student in the driver's seat, right? Help them own that technology so they feel empowered and can take it to other places. And 2, make sure that you tell them that this tool can be used for more than just in this class for this task, right? If you show them those real-world applications of these tools, they'll take it to greater heights. They're going to transform their academic experience at Ohio State and make an awesome journey here at Ohio State. And that is exciting. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. I'll take their clicker here real quick. Awesome job. So Max is doing an amazing job kind of getting students excited about the possibilities of the technology and the tools they have, but really letting them go and explore how to use that on their own, and giving them the power to make those decisions and figure that stuff out rather than being very prescriptive. Thank you again for coming down, Max. Awesome job. I only have 2 minutes to do a quick intro here, so I'm going to get right into our next presenter, who's really going to be talking about a little bit of the student experience, and that student experience around textbooks. So we all remember going to school and the challenges around textbooks and what that experience is like. And it's really excited to introduce Jenny Babcock. She's the Undergraduate Studies Director of the College of Social Work. So really excited for her to be here and share about this. So obviously it's a hot topic right now, our students' health and well-being and the stresses that they are kind of under around, obviously, school, education, finances, things like that. And so Jenny, thank you so much for coming and talking about this. So I'll hand it over to her.
Thank you, Scott. I am really excited to be here to talk about one of my favorite topics that's confronting higher education, and that's affordability and accessibility, and specifically in the area of the cost of textbooks. I think we all share a concern that we want to make sure our students can afford and have access to course materials. And I know in my position, I am confronted at the beginning of every semester with emails from students, and they typically ask one of 3 things. I can't afford the cost of my textbooks this semester. What do I do? Or, I can't afford to buy my books until maybe several weeks into the semester. How do I keep up? Or, can I get by if I buy an older edition of the text? Am I still going to be okay? And I think we know that those 3 choices, they limit students' ability to be as successful as they possibly could be in a class. They're starting out without their textbooks. They're trying to make it through without their textbooks for the whole semester. Or they're operating with an older edition that isn't updated and therefore impacts their ability to be successful. And so our college has really been starting to look at how can we address this. So that common question that I get all the time, can I get through this course without buying my books, without reading my course materials? When the university made this transition from quarters to semesters, our college made the decision to totally overhaul our curriculum. We wanted to rebuild it from the ground up. Why not be more stressed out than we already were? So we went through that, and in doing that, for the first several years of the semester curriculum, we surveyed our undergraduate students at the end of each semester. And we asked them a lot of questions about our new course sequencing. Were you finding issues of redundancy? Talk to us about rigor. Talk to us about course scheduling. One of the questions that we asked was about satisfaction with the textbooks for each course, and also asked about how much time they were spending reading and studying for each course. And what we got back from them consistently at the end of every semester was that almost a quarter of our students said, I didn't read. And I didn't read because I couldn't afford to buy the book. We have a lot of first-generation students in the College of Social Work who struggle financially. We have a lot of students who are food insecure. We have about 35% of our students who are first-gen who oftentimes have to choose between buying food and buying books and other course materials. So it's a major issue in our college. So when we got those surveys back and started to recognize that almost a quarter of our students, they were not reading. Not because they didn't want to, because they couldn't afford the textbooks. And yes, we put those textbooks on closed reserve at libraries, but they can't get there. They're working. They have kids. They can't get babysitters. They can't go spend 4 hours reading a book at the library. So we were really looking at, what do we do? And when we looked at the cost of textbooks each semester, our undergrad students, if they were buying, most of our books were kind of $200 range. So they're buying books, and if they're buying them new, they're spending almost $800. If they're buying them used, they're spending almost $500. And if they're renting, they're still paying $350. And they couldn't do that. And so we were starting to think about, what do we do? How can we be innovative? We've been working on going textless in some of our classes, so creating our own course materials, which is very labor intensive, or looking at free open educational resources and starting to build course materials in that way. But we were lucky enough to be approached by the university to pilot what's called Carmen Books, so digital textbooks. And they know that I think I'll try anything that helps our students in terms of affordability and accessibility issues, so we're an easy target. So the university has partnered with publishers, and we are able to offer our students with these digital textbooks cost savings of 70 to 80% off the list price of a book. So we piloted 2 course sections last autumn, autumn 17, an undergraduate online ethics course and a graduate level face-to-face course. And about 50 students last autumn, and we were able to save them about $10,000. We're doing the same thing this semester, same 2 course sections, an ethics undergrad online course and a master's face-to-face class. A little bit more students, just under 70 students, and saving them almost $12,000. In the spring, we're going to take a deeper dive. So we are going to pilot this digital textbook initiative across all 5 campuses. Our undergrad program is offered in its entirety on not only Columbus campus, but Lima, Marion, Mansfield, and Newark. So we are going to hopefully hit about 1,400 to 1,500 students in the spring. We're doing it in 9 courses, 5 undergrad and 4 masters, so it's about 56 course sections, I believe. And we're gonna save these students almost $200,000. So we are excited to see what things look like in the spring. Obvious benefits are the cost. So you saw how much we were saving our students. But other benefits to think about too, accessibility. So these textbooks, they are embedded in Carmen. So once a student enrolls in a course, that textbook is seamlessly there. They have access before the first day of class. And the other thing that was really important to me is they have access throughout their tenure as a student at the university. So their access to that textbook doesn't go away at the end of each semester. They have it the whole time they're a student. And for us, our students take a national licensure exam, so they need to study. So this will give them the opportunity to be able to go back to their course materials as they're getting ready towards graduation to study for their licensure exam and still have access. The other piece is cost, and the university was gracious enough to pay when we piloted the autumn 17 and autumn 18 Carmen Books pilot. Our students didn't have to pay at all. The university paid for them because we were testing things out. Spring is the first time that our students are actually going to have to pay. And I was just looking at the majority of our spring books that we're piloting as undergrad, most of them right around the $200 range. Our students are only going to have to pay between kind of $23 and $29 per book. So pretty amazing. So the way that the registrar has set this up for us, students, the cost of their textbooks, these digital textbooks, it's a course fee that's on their student account. So that's how they're gonna get their payment done. The other piece that was important to me is participation is optional. I am still, I confess, someone, if I'm gonna read a book, I'm gonna do it with a print book because I like that. And I think some of our students are still like that. Definitely more at the master's level than the undergrad. I think our undergrads embrace digital. They're all carrying around their phone and their iPad and their laptop. But the nice thing is students can choose to opt out. They do not have to, if they enroll in a Carmen Books pilot course in the spring, they don't have to purchase the digital course text. They can opt out and go get their book if they want a print book. Anytime a student enrolls in one of our Carmen course pilot classes in the spring, they automatically get an email from the registrar saying, hey, you enrolled in this pilot. Carmen book, digital textbook is accessible to you. They get a link to a website. They can read more about it. They get information about how they can opt out if they want to. So great opportunity for them to make the choice that works the best for them. The other really common feedback I've gotten from students is they're really excited to have the opportunity to have all of their course materials in one place, on their phone, on their iPad, on their laptop. They don't have to drag around their textbooks, so it's all in one place. The other piece I think that's really important to think about is accessibility in terms of students can highlight, they can search, they can annotate on these digital texts. They can resize the font so they can make it bigger or smaller, whatever they need. Our instructors can share information. They can share notes. They can highlight things with this so that the students see this. And the obviously, it's environmentally friendly. We're not printing a lot. So those were the other textbook advantages that I wanted people to think about when they think about these digital e-texts. So what's next for us? As I said, we're going to really do a deep dive in the spring and see how this goes. So we have 5 undergrad classes, 40 sections, about 1,100 students, and that's across all 5 campuses. Our regional campus folks are really excited to pilot this. And then we have 4 graduate level classes, about 16 sections and 300 students. And we'll get feedback from over 50 instructors who are teaching these course sections in the spring. We have, in terms of feedback that we've gotten from our students who are in the pilot sections that we have this autumn, we've gotten great feedback. The undergraduate students who are in our ethics class, which is online, they love it. The only feedback I got that they had concerns about was there was one day where 2 students said they couldn't load their digital textbook, that when they tried to get on to read, it wouldn't load for them. But as they said to me, they said, the guy being someone who's on the receiving end to fix problems for us, fixed it within a day, and so they said it wasn't a big issue. And the only other concern I heard from a student was that she couldn't get it to work on the browsers that she initially tried, but when she switched to Google Chrome, it worked immediately for her. So we've had really good feedback from our students. They're excited. I'm excited to see what happens in the spring when we do this kind of a big rollout and across all 5 campuses and see what feedback we get from our students. So we're going to survey them. We're going to survey instructors. We'll see what happens, and I hope our plan is to continue to move forward with this at a university level. Just think it's so important to make sure that our students have access and can afford what we're asking them to learn. So thank you for listening. If anyone wants to contact me in the spring to see how things are going, here's my contact information. Take care.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Whoa, I'm hot, sorry. Amazing stuff. Jenny, Kathy, Max, they're all going to be around here when we wrap up during the networking time. So if you want to find out more about their presentations, the stuff they're doing, collaborations, possibilities, we'll have that time afterwards, so be sure to grab them and chat. I'm going to keep us moving since we're good on time. Our next group of presenters is actually a group of students that I'm really excited to introduce and have up here. So again, we talked about that student experience and wanting to make sure that we have the students at the table for those discussions, because oftentimes we assume we know what the students are going through and what they're thinking, what they're feeling, but we really want to make sure it's a priority for us moving forward that we have them in those discussions. And so I'm really excited to introduce the next 3 students. Ohio State has some of the best students, obviously, in the world, and these are the best of the best students who've been working on our digital flagship. So I want to welcome Brielle, Hannah, and Savannah to talk about the student experience, especially around digital flagship over the last couple months. So please welcome our students very warmly and kindly up to the stage.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm Brielle.
And I'm Savannah Sockwell.
And like Scott said, we're just going to go over kind of our experience and focus a little more on the kind of the creative aspect that we've realized that these iPads can be used as a tool for.
So throughout this presentation, we're just going to take you through the first year experience with us. So we want you guys to all buckle up and get ready for the ride with us.
So we all know that the main goal for students is to leave Ohio State feeling that they were well prepared for the real world. And with the iPads already, students have an advantage to use different creative organizing methods such as Notability, Box, and even the calendar app, just to name a few. But one thing that I found really, really useful so far is the Notability app. And with the app, I'm able to take the different classes that I have and tailor the notes to those different classes and make it my own. I can use the features such as drawing, highlighting text, adding images, writing in text, and I feel like having all of those useful tools already has been really, really easy for me to get the course material in my head and retain it easier. And then with the Notability app, you're able to save those files onto the Box app. And with the Box app, it's a free, secure app and service that students can use and can also organize the notes that they have for those classes, for the different mini classes that they'll possibly be taking. But also too, instead of sending different emails and the group messaging and this group message and then this email, students can add and share the different files and documents that they're working on to create a collab. And I found that really useful. I've had to use it multiple times. For some reason, my professors love group projects. But you know, we appreciate you all because, you know, in the end, we do learn from them. And then just speaking on the app, for the Outlook app, I found that it's easier and faster to access, which has been a really, really good experience for me, especially being my senior year and having to take on so many different initiatives and then the different projects that I'm working on. It's just just best for me to have the app itself. And then if students are worried about the multiple notifications, they can simply turn them off within the settings app. And, right now, we're in our 12th week of school, but several weeks in, students know their class schedule by now, they know their work schedule by now, they know the different extracurricular activities they have, and it could be hard sometimes to make time for themselves. But what I found to be helpful for me is time blocking. And with the calendar app, students can easily do so, which can help them, maybe put that time in their schedule for their self-care, or maybe time for their friends. And then they can see the times that they have free for those times. And that's helped me tremendously. But not only that, students are able to, if they have other Apple devices, they can sync their devices so that those devices, what they see on one, they can see on the other, such as the iMessage, the Photos, Safari browser, etc. Last but not least, Dual Mobile was a pain, but now I know the purpose of Dual Mobile, and I love it because students now have more secure and can better protect their personal information. And I know that for me personally, I can sleep at night better with Dual Mobile. So.
Awesome. So I hope you guys can remember when you were in your first year. So I want to take everyone back there, try to remember. So you're in your first year and you're really excited. Fast forward a little bit and now it's time for your first exam. So at least for me, I don't know if this was the same for everyone, but you're really nervous. You want to perform well. This is your first college exam and you just want to like ace it. I can say that I didn't ace my first one, but that's okay. So I want everyone to be in that space where you're like in your feels. So something that I use is also Notability, and what I started to do was take notes. And with these notes, I was doodling, and I wasn't sure what I was doing at first, but I was like, wow, this is a great way to like implement something that I stopped doing, which is visual art. So a lot of people going into high school, you stop a lot of the little things that you used to enjoy, whether it be like sports, music, art. Art was what's personally was pulled out of my daily life. But after we were handed this device, I've been able to implement that back into my life. And with that, I'm able to enjoy taking notes and studying a little bit more because I was able to put in something that I enjoy. And then something else I use is guided access. Guided access can be used for a ton of things. Like if you have a niece or a nephew and you want to give your phone to them and you want to like keep them locked into one page so they don't look at anything else. But something that I used it for to keep me engaged with my work is using it for taking practice tests. So I'll lock myself into guided access for like 15 minutes or however long it takes to complete the test. And with this, I'm not able to look at my notes, so I can truly gauge where I'm at in the class. So the biggest takeaway for me as a student is that I'm able to implement something that I truly enjoy into my class, which is art. And this is what works for me. It may not work for everybody, but it's trying to find how am I going to use this device and make my experience better. Because my experience has definitely been enhanced with being able to put in something I enjoy.
So now you have another exam, right? It's not just one exam and done. And so, for example, the notes that I have up here, so I'm in an anatomy course here. It's advanced anatomy for undergraduates. And we meet every day, but we have about 4 hours a week in the lab. And that's not really a lot of time when you think about it to be looking at. We have about like 12 different cadavers that we're able to interact with in the lab. It's not really a lot of time to sit down and say, okay, this muscle is here and this nerve is there and that vein, nope, that's an artery. There's not really a lot of time for that. And so when you're talking about studying outside of lab, really making those connections is what helps the retention kind of in that class. And so one of the tools that I utilize personally is the Adobe Suite. You have Adobe Sketch, you have Adobe Draw, and I'll go through and I'll find the pictures in lecture and I'll screenshot them and then I go through and draw them. And while that might kind of seem redundant, right? Like, oh, if you've taken a screenshot, just print it out and label it. The actual drawing of it is what helps kind of solidify those connections. So when we're looking at, the front of your thigh, I can see, oh, this muscle's next to this one and this one's next to this one, right? And the Adobe Adobe Suite's really cool because you can also layer images as well. So when I want to test myself in terms of, well, where are these nerves and arteries and veins in relations to each other, I can have those different layers on there and interact with them and interact with those layers to see like, oh, this is where this nerve is, but wait, I need to remember what that muscle is, and I can take it away. And so that's a really cool thing. And especially when you're talking about in your first year, you barely know how to study, let alone how to creatively do so, right? You just want to take all the knowledge and shove it in your head. It's just something that kind of takes a while to kind of learn, but these iPads have been a tool that, especially since the first years, and every student at Ohio State gets this Adobe Suite, they have access to it. It's a way for them to kind of help their retention outside of the classroom when they only have so much time to really solidify their knowledge. Another thing that I found useful, it's this app, it's called Canva. So it does similar to what kind of Adobe Draw might do, or excuse me, Adobe Spark. Yeah, Adobe Spark might do, or Post, or Page, thank you. But it's a way kind of, I use this as a creative outlet. I'm a resident advisor. I am in a couple of organizations. And so when we're talking about, we need a flyer for an we need a flyer for an event, for a fundraiser, or hey, I have a program. This platform is another kind of creative outlet that we utilize in that sense. So I can make that flyer, I can make a newsletter and send it out in an email, maybe kind of a memorabilia like ticket stub to hand out at events. And having that iPad, I can just say, all right, we're going to meet 15 minutes before our meeting, and boom, we need to put together a flyer. And I can just, that's our piece of paper, and we can just kind of put everything on there and see what works and see what doesn't. And that's really awesome as well, because when you're talking about us as students being mobile, this device allows this creative platform to be mobile with us.
Good morning. My name is Lee Vestfung. I'm the Associate VP for Learning Technology in ODEE. I want to thank Brielle, Hannah, and Savannah again for their presentation. And what I really appreciate about the kind of range of topics that they discussed are the ways that you're seeing them use the technology in ways that go beyond kind of that simple tool that you can employ in a classroom. And so part of what I love and what I think we're seeing with students who are really embracing the technology is the ways that it's helping them be more kind of effective and connected to the work that they're doing in a range of ways, from being able to implement creative strategies to managing time to connecting with others in their lives. And so I think what I see there and what we're really looking for is that much broader richness of experience and the ability to start practicing in college the ways to manage the kind of permeation of technology into our lives, and how we do that in ways that are good for us and they're healthy and that are effective. And Jessica and her team on the Digital Flagship student side have been working very hard to design programs around balance and connection and mental health and wellness, so that this is not just an academic initiative, but really what we consider a whole student initiative. So I want to thank you for your presentations. I was delighted to know that Savannah is so pumped about Duo. It's fantastic. I like to monitor what's happening in social media when we roll out exciting new things like Duo. And I think one of my favorite tweets was a student who said, whoever rolled out Duo deserves to experience minor inconveniences for the rest of their life. It's fair, I guess. So I want to take just a moment to thank all of our presenters. If we can give them another round of applause. This is a event that I love getting to hear from people who are working with students or are students on the ways that they're implementing kind of new ways of connecting. I also want to take a moment to call out this space. There was a tremendous collaboration between the architects and people committed to the historical integrity of the building, and Stephanie Orr and the Classroom Readiness Committee, to try to make sure that it would retain the historical and architectural integrity while turning it into a really usable and exciting and engaging physical space. And there were some, that's a difficult tension to balance. So I think they've really done a beautiful job of it. And I also want to make sure that you all have Innovate on your calendars, May 16th of next year. We have a really, really exciting lineup. I actually was looking back over the 10-year retrospective, and we started in 2010. And I have, in that span, had 3 children, and I was pretty much pregnant or recently had birthed a child for almost every single Innovate, and I'm delighted that that's never going to happen again. But we spent the first Innovate rearranging the furniture ourselves in the little room in the library for our very first one. And we've grown obviously into a much bigger event with all of your support and connections. So we are excited to see all of you there. The RFP opens for proposals November 25th. The strength of that event is heavily based on the strength of the breakouts and the conversations you bring. We really appreciate interactivity, panels, discussions, point, counterpoint. So find some colleagues here or elsewhere that you can bring in to have an interesting conversation that we can all dive into. And we will be sticking around. I think some of our speakers will stick around, so please feel free to join us for some networking or some additional food. And again, thank you so much for coming today.